So, unfortunately, it's another day and yet another sad and disheartening piece of news for Knights of the Old Republic. With the issues surrounding the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake and the complete radio silence we've had for almost 2 years, and then of course the drama surrounding the restored content mod on Nintendo Switch, many of us were just looking for one big win for this franchise. We were just looking for something to finally go right. And I think for many of us, that one big win was the Unreal Cinema Knights of the Old Republic fan series. If you don't know anything about this, about a month or so before the announcement of the Knights of the Old Republic remake, an artist by the name of Unreal Cinema, whose actual name is Scott, released teaser footage of a Knights of the Old Republic fan film that he was working on in Unreal Engine. Before his channel and all of his work blew up, I remember back then I reached out to him personally and I promoted his channel and his fan series on mine because the quality of it was just so incredible. And we had a lot of chats about Knights of the Old Republic and YouTube in general. In fact, if you look at when he was starting out and look at one of his thumbnails, he took a lot of inspiration from mine. And like I said, we had a lot of good chats about the project and I was genuinely excited for it. And Scott really seemed like a good guy and he was really passionate about what he was making. And as the months and the years now went by, artists and voice actors and whatnot helped him bring his vision to life, without being paid, by the way, because this was a fan project. It was all voluntary. But the majority of the work and the majority of the things that were being created on an artistic level were being done by Scott himself. He was taking on the majority of the workload, and we got to kind of see a tease of the quality of this project in the Malak short film and the teaser trailer for episode 1 of the KOTOR fan film The Spire. These little snippets were insights into the quality and the sheer high production values that were going into these animated fan films. But for about 12 months after the release of the trailer in 2022, Scott kind of disappeared. Not only did he go radio silent on his YouTube channel, on social media, he became supposedly very difficult to contact by his own moderators, and there was absolutely no news or no updates on the project's development. Whereas before, Scott was really active in the community. He was doing live streams showing his development process, there was videos every month showing the details of what was being worked on, but up until a couple of days ago, there was really nothing for about a year. And because of this, if you are part of the Unreal Cinema Discord server, which is where the majority of the community are, you'll know that there was a lot of rumblings about this. People were understandably so frustrated that nothing was being said and there was absolutely no updates about the project, and some were even angry because they had donated to help support Scott while he was making the series. But it wasn't until a couple of days ago that we got an indication that something wasn't quite right from one of the moderators in the Discord server. This indication kind of suggested that the project was on hold and that something was sort of going on behind the scenes, and there was a lot of speculation about what was going to happen to the project, but sadly, we have finally been told by the moderators of the server that the Unreal Cinema Knights of the Old Republic series is officially cancelled. In an announcement yesterday, one of the Discord moderators, Sweet Lake, who is also part of the team, said this: "Our apologies for the long wait. This project is something that the team was, and still is, extremely passionate about, but none of us were as passionate as Scott Anderson, better known as Unreal Cinema. Scott was in charge of writing and editing the scripts, casting, directing, character creation, design, object design, area design, animation, PR, and the making of promotional materials. He wanted every part of the project to be as polished as possible. Because of this momentous amount of work, there have been some health concerns that Scott has been dealing with, and as a result, Scott hasn't been able to take care of his health while making the series. Our biggest concern has always been that of the fans. We wanted to create something truly amazing for all Star Wars and KOTOR lovers to see. We desperately wanted to update everyone on the status of the project during the entire period since the previous video, but also had to take into account Scott's privacy. Because we have been unable to make contact until recently, we could not give any definitive information. Our sincerest apologies for this." As of now, the Unreal Cinema KOTOR series is cancelled, and the Patreon has officially been closed. Sadly, we are unable to do a community post on the YouTube channel to let all the subscribers know. We did not have the keys to the Patreon or the YouTube. The server will stay open if you guys wish, but it will not be dedicated to the Unreal Cinema KOTOR series. We understand everyone's frustration, and we understand if there's still many questions left to be answered, and the mods and the cast will remain active in this server to hopefully provide answers to any questions you might still have, although we might not be able to answer all of them. Because the project is cancelled until further notice, this will be our last official announcement. We want to thank everyone for building this amazing community and for remaining hopeful and excited until the very last day. Now, Sweet Lake does say several times in this announcement until further notice, which is the possible indication that maybe it might be picked up in the future once Scott's health has improved. But regardless, it's a real sad ending to what was such a hopeful and exciting project for so many of us. In regards to my feelings and my thoughts on the whole situation, I'm really sad. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I was speaking to Scott quite regularly about the project a while back, and he was so passionate and so committed to making this thing special. But I did have some personal doubts about the overall scale of it. I knew that Scott was doing a lot of the core work, but I didn't realize he was doing as much as he was. And with the initial announcement, it was, we're going to make the whole game into an animated show, and with that scale, there needs to be a massive team. This wasn't just a little animated short, this was a high quality animated remake of a 50+ hour video game. If you've watched the Malak short and the Spire trailer, you will know just how incredible it looked. It genuinely looked like a high budget, major studio animated show. And the truth is, for one man to do all of that was just unprecedented, and it clearly took its toll, which is a massive shame and it's sad to see. In hindsight, perhaps for the rest of the team and for Scott, it may have been wiser to just announce one episode and focus on delivering that first instead of delivering a whole series, and having smaller, publicly incremental goals and focusing on those public deliverables first, instead of having this grand vision that everybody knew about, which no doubt added nothing but pressure and stress. And I think this situation just goes to show that as much as a project can be your baby and you want to do as much as you can for it, there needs to be a recognition of our limits. Our mental health needs to be prioritized, as does our physical health, and of course we need to be able to manage our time. Now, I know there was a fair few people that were helping Scott with the project, but as I said, something of this scale, almost studio level in a way, needed more people involved in the production and the artistic production side of the show. And it just seems like Scott wasn't willing to kind of let go of some of those pressures and let other people in to lessen the burden and help make that vision a reality. I know there was at least 140 people who were contributing to the production of this project in a variety of roles, with the majority of them working in localization and translation, and audio, and some in digital art, and of course the voice actors. But in regards to the majority of everything else, from the writing, casting, directing, animation, character design, 3D design, running the channel, production, streaming, Scott was doing everything, probably way too much for one man. I do know that I offered to help very early on in like a writing and advisory role, an offer that Scott didn't take up, but I do get it. When you have a vision and a personal goal and something that you are creating, you kind of want as much control as possible because it's coming from you, it's coming from your soul in a way. But as someone with many friends in the artistic space and in the media industry, I've seen what having such a tight grip on these things can do to a person and how detrimental it can be. And as I've gone on and as I've been around folks who've been working in media, in video, in art and animation, you learn more often than not that it's a collaborative process to make these grand visions come to life. But with that said, our health is the most important thing. I've seen firsthand one of my best friends who works in media also go through something similar, where his health just declined because of the amount of work he was doing and the amount of pressure he was putting on himself to make things, which was heartbreaking to see. And I really, really do hope Scott is okay, and I wish him nothing but the best, and I hope his recovery, whatever it is from, is swift. Now, I have seen some people who are saying this whole project was a scam and they are angry because they donated, and I understand where they are coming from, but you have to remember, we can see the effort, we can see what was being put into it, we can see the quality of the work, the short film, the trailer, all of the positive sentiment from those that worked on it, the voice actors, the translators, the musicians, the moderators and whatnot. And because something like this couldn't be crowdfunded, donating wasn't the purchasing of a product. It was supporting an artist to create something. And there is evidential proof that the artists were creating something, and that something was very high quality. And thus, I don't think it's right to call it a scam. Because if the artist's health has declined to the point where they literally can't do anything, I don't think it's fair that we get angry with them. Though from my personal perspective, I do think leaving the Patreon open for so long and not putting it on pause was a misjudged decision, especially if there was any doubts over health issues or the project's completion. However, I did speak to a member of the team about this, and they were trying to close the Patreon. However, they couldn't get access to it, and Scott couldn't get access to it either, but because of his privacy, they couldn't divulge as to why. So read into this what you will. Now, after this announcement was made, I did reach out to Sweet Lake, the moderator who had the unfortunate position of being the one to make this announcement, just to offer my condolences to everyone that's been a part of it and to make sure they're all right, and to let them know that I would be covering this in a video, so that the wider KOTOR community could learn about it through me, as it seems that Scott is unable to be making any official announcements on his YouTube channel. I was also told by Sweet Lake that the composer for the show was a gentleman called Joseph David Spence. He composed the main theme, which despite everything will presumably be released at some point on the Discord server when it's ready, despite the series' cancellation. Much like many of the voice actors, I was told that Joseph was supposed to be announced after the first teaser, but this never happened because of issues. I'm not familiar with Joseph myself, I don't know if he's done anything else in the Star Wars music space, but Sweet Lake wanted me to give him a mention anyway so that people knew that he was part of the project and that he worked on making some of the music. He was also the leader of all of the musicians on the project, and supposedly there was about 40 of them doing the audio, and he also voiced Darth Bandon, so he was quite involved in the project. I really do hope in the coming months these videos will not be so negative. Every single news update or piece of information that I cover that comes out lately has just been bad. And trust me, it depresses me to make these videos as much as it depresses you guys to learn about the news. But I am interested in knowing what you think about all of this information. Are you angry, sad, depressed that the series is not coming out? Or did you have doubts that maybe this was too big of a project anyway? Let me know down in the comment section below because I'm interested in hearing your thoughts. As always, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button because it really helps, and share the video so we can update the wider KOTOR community about this sad cancellation. Also, if you haven't, perhaps consider subscribing to join the biggest growing Knights of the Old Republic community on YouTube. I'll see you guys in the next video. But until then, may the Force be with you. Always.